Mark Skaar on 103.7 The Fox. This is the Skaar Kaard. And I have from the band Soraia, ZouZou Mansour. Hello, welcome.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so since the Skaar Kaard got going a few months ago, we've had the privilege of playing a few songs off of the new record, Dig Your Roots. I call them records because I'm old. And
I call them records, too.
Yeah. On Wicked Cool Records, which, of course, is Little Steven's label. And so congratulations on this great rockin' record.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. And thanks for playing it. I really appreciate that. We all do.
So let's get into this record and tell me a little bit about how it all came together. Where did you record it? Who did you work with? That sort of thing.
Oh, great. Well, this is our second release through Wicked Cool Records. So just like Dead Reckoning, the first record we released in 2017, we went back in February of 19, in with Jeff Sanoff, who produced the whole record in New York City. Our label also has all the recording studio on the same floor, so we went into New York and did it like we did the last record. So there was a comfort to it and a maturity to it that we already had been through the experience with the same people. So we went in there and we had these songs, and for our last record, we actually played the songs live a ton before we went in to record them. That wasn't the case with this record. We actually, I think 3 or 4 of the songs we went in and had written right before we went into the studio, and the cover we do on that record, If Nothing Compares to You, we hadn't even probably rehearsed more than once before we went in the studio with it. So it was a little more less familiar musically for all of us. We knew the songs, obviously we wrote them, but we also had a little more, I think, creativity in the studio and freedom in the studio with it because we had done a record already and we kind of knew what to expect, and we're a little more able to be honest about what we wanted and have a good flow with our producer. We already worked with him. He knew what we were about. So I felt like it had no room but to grow in that situation, and no attachment to the end result, which is a big thing for us because we always did have that. So this was the first even like feeling experience that was just felt like very relaxing and free and kind of less stressful. So it was a lot of fun to write the songs, and we had a confidence going in to write the songs. I've written with Travis Smith since I can remember, and we have a chemistry that's pretty unique when we go in to write together and really honest, and I think he's just such an artist and easy to work with. And then it was my first time writing with our drummer, Brianna Siggs, who I was able to be open with about things maybe I wouldn't normally write about. So it was really a band record, and everybody brought something to the table, and I think, like I said, we were all just more comfortable in the studio this time around.
Talking with ZouZou Mansour from Soraia about Dig Your Roots. Let's talk about a few of the songs. Let's start with the lead track, Dangerous.
Yeah, that was actually, well, it was the second to last song we wrote for the record. We'd written it the month before, and it was just, I consciously didn't want to, it's not only I didn't hear a melody for the verse, but I really wanted to deliver this like more verbal attack in the verse. And I co-wrote that with Mike Reisman, who was our former guitar player, but also co-writer. He actually came up with the idea for the front end of it with the scream and the woo, and I thought that was a cool way to start a rock song, you know what I mean? And had a lot of that character that we had already written into the verses and the chorus. And we deliberately wanted to do like a call answer in the choruses. So it was kind of cool. It was like not contrived, but already kind of, we had a vision for how we wanted to write it when we first started writing it. But typically what I do is they send me like ideas on guitar or with like it just might be a piece of a song. And if I hear something to it, I just start writing to it. So that was exactly what happened with this song as well. But it was a few more times to meet because we just wanted to, it didn't come together right away. So it kind of was a lot of different parts added. And the middle of that song, actually, Little Steven came up with the idea for the music for that. And I just wrote a really cool, like repetitive melody over it and wanted to build it with harmonies. And again, that one came together in the studio, that middle section. So, yeah, it was one of the last ones written, and it worked out.
Let's talk about Wild Woman, which also has an accompanying video with it.
Yeah, Wild Woman. Oh, man. Wild Woman, Travis had sent me this really swampy, Sabbathy, heavy guitar riff. And I don't know why, but as soon as I heard it, I thought of, like, those 70s records, like the holding an album in your hand kind of thing, and just this cool, he already had the tone, like, that we ended up using on the final record, too. And I was like, man, like, he had so many good, like, just riff parts to it, like, all those parts he'd already had musically, and I just thought, you know, maybe in this one, just let the music be as cool as it is and keep the vocal, like, sparse. And at the time I was watching this female preacher who's really powerful on YouTube, and she's just, like, very, I don't know, she talks about modern day stuff and applies it to usually a title line and a theme. And her title was Wild Woman, and how she explained it was something that you wouldn't normally associate with being wild. So I was like, man, that's an important thing to put into a song. And I had been having these conversations with people that was all about that. So it was like, that song lyrically is a bunch of conversations and me watching that, you know, preacher video lady, and then Travis just having this great riff. And that one came together pretty quickly, actually. So, yeah, I'm really proud of that one and what it stands for. And the video very much is, like, about what it, you know, the theme of that song is about. So I'm happy with the narrative, too, of the video.
Talking with ZouZou Mansour from Soraia, let's jump to one of my favorite tracks on the record, Superman Is Gone.
Yeah. That one has actually become my favorite track on the record. People always ask me, what's your favorite track? And it changes. But Superman Is Gone is one of those songs that just I'm very proud of. And I can tell you, I don't really remember writing it. I remember specifics of writing other songs. And that tells me that it was a very natural, I trust that more, I guess. It wasn't so deliberate. And it started actually with a conversation I had with Michael DeBar in California. We were playing L.A. He's like, I wish you would talk sometimes about what you really have been through in your life. And I thought, I didn't know people really wanted to hear, you know, I'm pretty autobiographical as it is. So when we had that conversation, I deliberately wanted to go home, and the next song I wrote, I wanted it to be about my history of, you know, getting high and some of the emotions that went with that, more so, because it's so in my rearview mirror, but it's still very visceral, the feeling of what I felt then and the victimhood of it. But Superman Is Gone came together because I deliberately said to Travis, this is the kind of song I want to write. And we wrote it together. And I don't even remember who came up with the title line. He says I did, but I honestly don't remember, which is kind of exciting. But yeah, that song in the studio, again, the middle part came together because we had a completely different middle section than what came out at the end. And me and Brianna, our drummer, just happened to be in the studio that day together. And Jeff, the producer, said, you know, why don't you guys try more of like a, Annie Lennox through Eurythmics and Sweet Dreams, you know, in that middle part, she does this really cool vocal thing. So I listened to it that night. We were staying in North Jersey, and I listened to it that night. And the next day I had this idea for Call Answer because Brianna's voice is so light and feminine, and mine is like a little heavier and a little raspier. So that all came together in the studio, that middle section. I really love that part. It gives me chills every time I hear it. Surprised that it came out, how it came out, not out of like not thinking it would be great, but just that it was so last minute a decision and it came out beautifully. So it's just one of those songs I'm really, really proud of as a writer, and also one that I actually listen to a ton because I just love the vibe of it and everything. So, yeah, I'm glad you like it.
I wonder if Michael DeBar said what he said because he saw you as a kindred spirit, somebody you could write to.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of the conversations I have that always are kind of come out of, it wasn't planned to have a conversation like that, but Michael DeBar in particular, when I speak with him, there's a deeper conversation happening. And a lot of, like, if Steven says something to me or he says something to me, there's certain people, not just those two, but there are certain people that when they speak to me and they know me, and they may not know me a long time or know the intimacy of my life details, but there's something about me that they like to muse, like get something out of, you know what I mean? And they have that ability to reach me on a level where I actually take action on their ideas, you know what I mean? And I think that's vital for any artist. The further you go into writing and creating whatever your medium is, you need somebody like that, or a few people like that in your life that are willing to dig deeper into, you know, so more can come out and you can share that, you know, with your audience, and the right people hopefully hear the message that they're supposed to hear, and, you know, or just enjoy the song, you know, whatever the outcome. But yeah, I definitely enjoy my conversations with him. We actually just did California tour before everything was halted by the breakout of COVID-19. So I got to see him, and again, great conversation, and yeah, a very talented artist and kindred spirit there for sure.
I think the Mistakes are getting ready to release an EP of some sort.
Yeah, I think so too.
Mm-hmm. Looking forward to that. Yeah, I've had Michael on a couple times. He's great.
Yeah, and he like just gets straight to the truth. Mm-hmm. You're just like, what just happened? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think that's really I aspire to be more like him.
It's refreshing.
It is. It absolutely is. Yeah.
Talking with ZouZou Mansour from Soraia about Dig Your Roots. ZouZou, how did it come about to do Nothing Compares to You? It's, of course, written by Prince. I think everybody knows that, but I'm sure that there must be some compelling reason as to why you decided to put it on the record.
Yeah, I don't think it's any secret how big of a Prince fan I am. He's probably my favorite artist of all time. And Purple Rain's probably my favorite album of all time. I think at the time, the story of the lyric really spoke to me, something I was going through at the time and had been through a few times. You know, that desperate feeling and also very romantic and tragic and beautiful feeling of wanting someone back that maybe you shouldn't be with. You know, and he worded it so well. It's such a poetic lyric at the same time that it's heartfelt and kind of that whole last-ditch effort to want to hold on to that relationship in that last verse. Lyrically, it just really has always spoken to me, but I had only recently heard his version of the song. It was on YouTube, and I don't even think it was out before he had passed away. And I had always, you know, the popular version is the Sinead O'Connor version from the 90s, but his version had a soul to it, and I can't compare the two, you know, but I hadn't heard his, and the soul version of it, and the depth and heaviness of that, it's like there was an undercurrent of kind of sadness and longing in the background vocals. So artistically, it just spoke to me, and I honestly was scared to cover it. We got in the studio, and I had a lot of nerves about the vocal, much more than I ever do. I just wanted to honor it right, and I finally realized I just had to speak from my own heart and my own experience in order to honor it right. And I'm really happy with how it came out musically and vocally, so I'm really proud of it. And Jeff had the idea to make it a little more like All the Young Dudes, like that kind of production on it. So we're really happy with how it came out. It was very collaborative in the end, even though, like I said, it was literally picked maybe the night or 2 nights before, and we'd rehearsed it one time. So, yeah, so proud of it. Proud that we covered it, too.
Let's talk about the role little Steven has. Obviously, he's got Wicked Cool. Because he's a musical lifer, of course, for those that are living under a rock. The E Street Band, of course, lots of solo career stuff too, but just he's been around the block so many times, does the radio show. He's just got a lot of fingers in the pie. What advice does he give to you, and what kind of nuggets do you mine from a guy like that?
I mean, he is the quintessential artist in my eyes, and he's a very loving soul and very available in the moment when he's talking to you. He's not distracted by something else he's into, you know what I mean, which is rare because he's a busy guy. But, and I appreciate all those things in him. Our first release with Wicked Cool, which was Dead Reckoning, he produced the first 2 tracks on. He came in, as soon as we went in, he had asked us to learn 2 tracks. One he wrote called Why, and the other one was The Third Eye Girl. Again, Prince had written cover of Wow, which I was thrilled that he picked because I honestly love Third Eye Girl. So he produced us there. He'd always been a fan of the band. He'd been a fan of ours since I had co-written a single, Runaround, with my old producer back in 2010, and he contacted me and wanted to meet with me. So I went to his offices, and I had a 3-hour conversation with him about the state of the music business and what he thought of me as an artist and what he suggested I do. And he, left it open-ended. If you want to do this, get in touch and send me the songs, and if you don't, that's fine. So he was always, his spirit is like he's produced us. He produced a live show of ours at the end of 13, he came and saw us live. He started playing us on his radio station then, and he's picked a lot of the songs I've co-written with Travis. He's picked as his #1 songs for the whole year, I think 2 or 3 times now. And he was a fan of how we wrote, what we wrote, and how we produced. And then he came in and added a whole new element to it. So we have a trust there. And I've asked him his advice about several things, and he's always been honest with me and direct, which is nice. You don't have to sift through stuff with him. And he's given me a valuable piece of information at the end of his production with us in 17. I said to him, I was like, how did you pick all these? I mean, how do you know what to do production-wise on these songs? Like, you hear things and you just go right to it. Like, the trust, the intuitiveness is there for him. And he said this to me. He said, a song always tells you what it needs. And that is probably the greatest piece of advice he's ever given me. I don't know if he knows that's the greatest piece of advice he's ever given me. But it's a lot more about trusting the process and letting the song be what it is and getting out of the way than trying to put your, clever ideas on it. You know what I mean? And I love that. There's a freedom in that, that it doesn't have to come now. Maybe it'll come 3 weeks from now when you're in the studio, like it did for us with Dig Your Roots. There's like an innate trust of the process. So it's, he's been a muse. He's been a producer. He's been a fan. He's been a co-writer of ours. And, he just walks through the studio sometimes. He also knows when to let you do your thing. Like, he lets you, he gives you the freedom to fall on your face or succeed without him, too. So I think that's a vital aspect of why it's such a good label to be on. And he always tells you what he thinks, and he spends time listening to all of your songs. Like, specifically, he'll tell you exactly what he thinks. He gives notes on the songs and everything, and he lets you decide whether you want to do them or not. You can tell he's just an artist, and he's inspired by other artists, too, at every level.
Has the boss heard Soraia?
Oh, well, I'm going to guess yes. If he hasn't heard us, he's definitely heard of us. I was thinking that myself. I was like, I don't know. I guess I would assume. I mean, it was like revealed in a few interviews that Jack White listens to the station, and I'm sure Steven listens every once in a while too. So if they're listening, they've heard Soraia plenty. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing
for sure. ZouZou, if people want to find Soraia online, buy records, any kind of stuff like that, let's point them in the right direction.
Sure. I mean, if they want to buy Dig Your Roots on vinyl or CD or just see where it is on streaming, we have a link from the Orchard. It's orcd.co/Dig Your Roots, one word. Our website, all our handles are at Soraia Rocks for our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and then our main site with all our updated tour dates and some pictures, video, etc. is Soraia.com, Soraia.com.
ZouZou Mansour from Soraia, our guest on the Skaar Kaard tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. A great interview. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And this is Mark Skaar on the Skaar Kaard on 103.7 The Fox.